Check one, two, three. Hey everybody, it's Michael Helms, also known as Michael the Sound Guy, and this is the Location Sound Podcast. You know, each episode we talk with location sound mixers, boom ops, and other industry pros about the various aspects of recording sound on location, whether it's for feature and independent films, TV commercials, interviews, any time where dialogue from actors is recorded. I started my career in the recording studios in New York City with some of the big artists back in the day, and later on projects for networks like HBO, Sci-Fi Channel, and the Cartoon Network. As time went by, I got out of the studio and began working in production sound. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, thanks for joining us. Okay, our guest today is a production sound mixer and boom op based out of Montreal, Canada. Please welcome Dominique Greffard.
Hey, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure having you. We've been talking with a lot of production sound mixers around the world, kind of talking about what they did during COVID-19 when everything kind of shut down. So what was your experience?
Oh, man. From one day to another, everything got shut down. Mid-March, I was fully booked and gigs starting to be pulled out. And next thing you know, I was off for 4 months. And have young kids, so I stayed with my kids that had no more school or anything. So we all stayed together. Funny thing is that during that period, I'm a little bit of on the hyperactive side of things. So I couldn't really just stop and do nothing. So I had a couple of ideas that I had no time to do. So 20 minutes by 20 minutes in between the playing with my kids, I started to get involved into designing things in 3D and getting myself a 3D printer and starting to build accessories that I did firstly for my own purpose. Having recently switched to a whole Zaxcom system, there was a couple of things that was not there, or if there was, it was extremely expensive for the few amount of times that I would need them. So I started to do a little bit of a stick mic adapter, and I had some time off, so I decided to offer it to the other sound mixers around, and it picked up a bit. So it got interesting. I opened a little online store and turned into a Location Sound Tools that I've been running since then. So I guess the downtime turned into a positive thing for me. Since there was no filming for like 3 to 4 months, there was a lot of backlog in production. So when we were allowed to film again, it got really busy really fast. And next thing you know, you snap your fingers and you're solidly booked. And now we're back where we were and filming every day, hopefully from Monday to Friday because of my family situation at the moment. But yeah, we're fortunate over here in Montreal. It's a separate filming climate because we do have the French language primarily on TV. So everything has to be done locally. To make an analogy, the French language up here in Canada is the equivalent of the American English versus the British English. So we don't have to compete with any content coming from France. So everything has to be done locally, plus fairly strong governmental support in that field. So there's a lot of production happening here in Montreal. So we're very fortunate, the technicians, and up here we're really busy, and we're working on really high quality production things. The filming knowledge up here in Montreal has been passed down from generations to generations. It started in the early 20th centuries, since the beginning of film. So there's a lot of expertise coming from this area. Like there's production movies that are being filmed here and everything. So even though we're a small little French-Canadian planet, the knowledge and the experience is pretty good over here, and I really enjoy doing what I do. It's a blessing for me to be doing this type of work every day, working with different people, filming different things. It's a very rich life. I really much enjoy it. Yes.
Now, how are things different with the safety protocols on set for you?
It's kind of the same thing that it used to be before, plus the face mask and the eye protection and a lot of sanitizing in terms of the wireless microphones and the Comtex and everything. But apart from that, we try to maintain our distance as much as we can. But as you know, it's quite difficult on the film set. So we protect ourselves. We wash our hands, and touching wood, I've never had anything, and so are the colleagues around me. Don't think that the film set is necessarily more dangerous than any other field. So fortunately, we've been pretty good at avoiding any catastrophe in our field, I think. And for the now being, we are still able to film. So production companies before are really going to try to film as much as they can before the winter hits us here. Because obviously being in Montreal, Canada, the winter is very cold and very snowy, and it becomes very challenging technically, and like visually it has this very different feel. So it has to be done before the winter comes. And of course it's very beautiful with the colors and the leaves at this time of the year. So people want to use it as much as they can. It's very beautiful right now.
Well, let's talk about some of the gear that you use on set. So kind of give us an overview of what's in your audio kit.
I have recently switched a year ago to a full-on Zaxcom kit. So basically a Nomad with the two MRX 414s, quadruple receiver. So that gives me a very powerful and very light bag that can get 8 recording transmitters in a 6-pound very light bag. And to be fairly honest, it's a bit of a learning curve to switch to this system. It took me a week or two to really get through the thinking, even though I was a Nomad user for many years, to get through the whole wireless system and everything. But once you get the hang of it, I mean, I am not going anywhere else. I think the stronger part of the system is definitely the least amount of analog to digital conversion happening, so you don't degrade the signal. I mean, once the signal gets to the body pack, it's all 1 and zeros, so you're getting pristine quality sound. And also on the transmitter side, I picked the ZMTs that are very small. And actors are really liking the form factor of these little things. They're quite small, so you don't have that much battery life as my previous Electrosonics SMQVs would have had. But the great part about it is that from the Nova, you can put everything on sleep while they're lighting the scene to switch the axis or anything like that. So basically, you do a wide shot, and then you go, okay, we're turning around, like we're going to need an hour to light this stuff. Then you just put everything to sleep. Nobody notices a thing. And right before rehearsal, you just pop everything back up remotely, and you're saving that battery life right there. It's been a blessing for me. And not to talk about the remote gain that has absolutely changed the way I work. I'm sure I'm not the only one talking about this stuff, but when you're able to change the gain on your transmitter, it changes everything, because you know as much as I know that once a part of the chain clips, I mean, it's over. You can't, the analogy is you can record good sound with a good microphone and a crappy recorder, but not the other way around. It's kind of the same thing with this system. So I'm very, very happy with my move. It's been sincerely rock solid since I made the switch. So I'm very happy with what the guys down in New Jersey are doing. It's very impressive stuff. I don't think that anything else on the market at the moment is touching what they're doing. I understand the amount of it can be a little bit intimidating to switch to this system. But once you get the hang of it, I mean, it's great. I wish more people would use the system, to be honest.
Okay. So what mixer did you use before in the past?
I started with pretty bad mixer. Then I had a PSC Alpha mix into a Sound Devices 7440, which was like double thing. So it was quite heavy. And then I got the Nomad, which has been an absolute workhorse for 7 years. And I sold it off to get a Sonos Sax. I believe the model is SXR4 Plus, which had a great form factor, which had like a couple of things that I really liked about it. But unfortunately, it wasn't the one for me because there was a lack of analog inputs in it. So when the Nova was announced, I mean, there was my name written all over it, because I already was starting to tinker with making like ultra light bag. I even had a stint when I had a Mix Pre 6 tiny recorder with just 2 Electrosonics receiver, giving me 4 wires and a boom in something like in like 4.5 pounds, which was extremely light. But the lack of input would hurt me in certain situations, so I had to go all in. And I'm glad that I did this move, even though it was quite costly, and it was right before the pandemic, which economically might not have been the best idea. Now that work picked up, I mean, I'm really happy with it.
Now, what kind of lavalier mics do you like to use?
I've been using Sanken Cos 11s for years, and they were the standard. Now that I switched, I had to switch all of my connectors. I went from TA5 to LEMO, so I did a little bit of research and I switched to DPA 4063, I believe is the model that has a less of a voltage issue, I believe, with the Zaxcom system. So I got those. So I'm all DPA 4063 at the moment. They sound very good. I think the sound is a little bit closer to what a boom microphone would sound because they feel a little bit more open. You have to be careful because I find them a little bit fragile in certain instances. But once you get used to them, they're really beautiful. I put them in a little Bumblebee rubbery, like flat mounting surface, and it works a treat.
And what kind of timecode boxes do you like?
Oh man, that's a big subject. Right now, I do all Tentacle E for the ability to jam everything at the same time. That is a big plus. The other obvious plus is that they're extremely tiny, so camera operators absolutely love them. The downside is they have a fixed internal battery, so you need to be prepared in the beginning of the day because if your things are not charged in the morning, I mean, you can slap them on camera, then slap a USB battery, but it becomes like cumbersome a little bit. So I wish it was that same system with a switchable battery. I used to have like the ERX timecode receiver from Zaxcom, and I actually lobbied the guy down at Zaxcom to come up with a newer, smaller version of this stuff, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be happening, unfortunately. So for now, I'm all Tentacles. I've talked to the guys at Tentacles in Germany. They're great people. They're doing great products, and we're actually doing a little caddy for the Tentacles over at the Location Sound Tools that allow you to put the Tentacles in a caddy to first keep them organized, and secondly, knowing what is charged and what is not charged at the beginning of the day, if you understand what I mean, because unless you turn them on and then take out your phone and open up the app and check the battery level on these guys, you don't know where you're at. So basically, we did a system where it allows you to put the Tentacles in the little caddy to identify if they're charged or not. So it's basically just a binary system to like, if you see their USB connector, it means that it needs to be charged. And the caddy is done in a way that they can be charged when they are in the caddy. There's a little opening. So you just pop that USB-C in there and you're good to go.
All right. What are some of the jobs that you work on? Is it primarily television?
It's mostly television. It's a little bit all over the place, but I would say it's about 70%, like as we say here, like magazine TV type of thing. So it's non-scripted magazine type of stuff. I don't do movies. I do about 30% of advertising. So it's fairly bigger sets with a boom up and bigger things. But like my system allows me to do a little bit of everything at the moment, and I'm very pleased with it. So it's mostly TV work and commercial work and a little bit of documentary and corporate stuff, but that's pretty much it. No film stuff.
Well, how did you get started doing production sound?
I've always really been into music, and I was producing music back in the day, and I was DJing and stuff like that. And a little bit by accident, I started to be a production assistant on TV shows, and it was actually fun. Like I really like the atmosphere of it because it's structured but kind of loose at the same time, and I really liked it. And then I realized that the sound person was working with equipment, which I thought was very appealing to me, and secondly was making twice my salary. So like, oh, there's something there. So one day the sound recordist on a show I was working was not available to do the gigs. So I mean, touching wood, it didn't go wrong, but like, I mean, he showed me in like 5 minutes how to work the PSC Alpha Mix cable to camera, remember back like 10 years or so. it was all like cable to camera stuff for magazine work. So we would just have a snake up the camera and just assign the track and just listen to the return. And it worked well because everything was set up, but I was like a total imposter back then. Thank God I followed a few masters here in Montreal that showed me the ropes. And like a year after, a producer moved to a different company and she called me up and she's like, do you still do sound? Oh, yeah, I still do sound, which I was not really that much doing, but I was like, yeah. Want to do it some more? Do you have your kit? Yeah, I have my kit. I had no kit. So I called the previous production company that had the old kit and they're like, okay, I know you have like a sound kit in your basement that's like not doing anything. Can I just buy it off you? I'll give you like prepaid checks for months. So they said yes. I grabbed the kit. I had like a PSC Alpha Mix, a couple of G3s, and gave them pre-checks on a few months. And I started to work in TV and built my kit from there. And thank God I was able to get some experience from other guys in the business that showed me a little bit how you do it. Took me a couple of years to get into the union. And now I'm filming 180 days a year up here in Montreal. It's a beautiful life. I really like it.
Okay. You mentioned some people that helped you out. So you had some mentors along the way?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I got to give a shout out to Dominique Greffard. He's an absolute master. He done a lot of all of the big films up here in Montreal. He's a very generous person, a very great guy. I'm grateful for him for showing me, took me under his wing. I was boom hopping for him for a bit. Yeah, he showed me how it's done. He showed me like the Sheps mics, and he was recording off his Kantar, and had the big Lectros, 200 receiver things. Not even on shark fins, just straight up whips and the big like SB3 sync boxes and all this stuff. I learned through him, and the booming technique is something that takes a while, I find, to get right, because it's not only how you place the microphone, but how not to get into frame, not create shadows, and how to hold the boom with the tip of your fingers. And it's a very Zen-like technique, I find. I really like it.
Well, out of all the projects you've worked on up to this point, what's been your favorite so far?
I did a series of shows. It was a TV show, and it was a music-based TV show where we would record musical performance live to tape, and it was extremely challenging. And I really liked the challenge of it because it's fun to record dialogue, but the spectrum of recording music is a whole different thing because of the nature of certain instruments. And I've had some really great people to coach me along, because recording dialogue and recording instruments are two different beasts. But I've been blessed with doing this. It was very, very fun to get to meet the musicians and learn a lot along the way. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, out of all the projects you worked on, what's been the worst project?
To be honest, Michael, I think I kind of liked everything that I did, even if it was a little like futile at times, for advertising things, when you just do they call you for a full day of work and you're there to record 93 times, like, oh yeah, great steak, or something like, like a stupid line, like 90 times. And it's just like, it's so repetitive. And I sometimes find the advertising world to be a little bit dumb, but I mean, I find the richness of the work is not necessarily in the sound that you deliver, but more the experience that you have, and the sheer experience that you have with the other people around you. Of course, it's been very challenging working in Montreal, Canada, where sometimes it gets extremely cold. There's a movie right now on Netflix, and François Grenon recorded it, and he told me about experience. And it was filmed in the middle of the night, and the temperature was dropping like in minus 35 Celsius degrees. And his boom up would say that he needed to change his AA batteries on his HM every 5 minutes because he wouldn't hold a single charge, and the cables get stiff, and it gets very difficult. It's one thing to be outside in the cold when you're active doing sports or whatever, but when you're standing there with your mixer waiting on something, it gets very difficult very fast. So to answer your question, I think it's going to have to be weather related, the difficulties of our work. As you know, batteries and cold temperatures are not doing very well. So that has to be the biggest challenge, yes.
Speaking of batteries, and what expendables do you like to use when you're wiring Talent?
I only use rechargeables. In my ZenMTs, I have the Electrosonics NP50s because I find that they're the best. Ironically, in a Zaxcom transmitter. For AA batteries, I found the AA IKEA are just the same as the PowerX or any like super ion one, to be honest. Like, I think the capacity on it is a little bit smaller, but to my eyes, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. And the price difference is ridiculous. It's like a third of the price. So I'm going to have to do the IKEA ones. And for the bag, everything is powered off a smart battery, a 98 watt hour, a smart battery by remote audio. It gets me, with everything powered on, about 4 to 5 hours on my Nova, and I get very far with it. One cool thing I got to say about the battery is that this other sound mixer called Chase Jeremiah, based in California, he built me this amazing 3D printed battery sled that I just attached to my Nova. So it makes it like a very like single one pack. I don't even have a bag on it. I mean, I just have the Nova there. I have the sled for the battery. I have a little 3D printed slot for my G3. And I have the wings that Koga Sound make, designed by Jim Caney, on there. And everything is absolutely light and small, under 6 pounds with the battery. And I'm very, very pleased with it. I don't want to have a big bag anymore. Sorry, I'm really getting off topic here, but I really want to say that, like, in terms of like general bags, I think that it's so absolutely crucial for sound mixers to understand the importance of keeping things light when you're wearing it all day long. I think it really can take a toll on your body. So anything that you can do to reduce the weight, I think is very crucial. The closer to the body, the better. The less stuff that you need to have, the better. That's my opinion, but I really believe in this stuff. Any bag that you find on the market at this moment, it has to be at least 2 pounds. So you're snapping a finger and you're up 10 pounds, like really easy. And you know the days are not getting any shorter. So you need to protect that body. So that means having a lighter bag and optionally do a little bit of a sport to keep the core strong.
Yes. Now, when you're hiding mics, do you use any kind of special mic concealers?
At the moment, I'm all Bumblebee, the little rubber mount for the DPA 46.3. I think they're doing an amazing job. I barely get them out of there. And honestly, they're a little bit of a pain to get out of there without being afraid of breaking the microphone. So they're always in there. I'm still learning on how to mount them like as good as I used to do with COS 11s, because COS 11s are a little bit bigger. The shape is a little bit more predictable. So for years, I was just going along with just doing all sorts of mounts with just moleskin, basically. But now with the DPA, it's a different story. It needs something a bit more dedicated. So I'm all just the Bumblebee mount and the fantastic tape, like double-sided tape, hypoallergenic tape thing. And I'm good to go. Oh, and also I really like the Bumblebee wind protection, little squares, fur things that I can put on top if it gets windy. But I'm still learning. I mean, I think there's probably a little bit of a learning curve. You know, as much as I know that like hiding microphone and doing it proper and making it sound open and like avoiding rustle noise and dealing with challenging wardrobe is a science, and it takes a lot of, like the senator would say, it takes experience to get experience.
Yes. Now I saw on your Instagram account you did a post about you had a boom pole and you did a double MKH-50 rig.
Yeah, that's correct.
Kind of tell us that setup.
It's for a cooking magazine show that I do where talents are sitting at the bar type high, about a little less than 2 meter distance from each other. And I mean, the ideal positioning I find is just to have two hyper at 45-degree angle coming from the same spot. So basically what I did is I just grabbed a small metal bar from Key NH, I believe, and a little round like knuckle type adapter thing to be able to rotate it 360 degrees to the right position. And I don't even have a suspension because everything is just off a stand, so it's not a regular suspension. It's just a little clip that gives you with the two MKH-50, and it sounds great. Like I really like this stuff. So in my sound kit, I always have a couple of Dinkin arms, a couple of Magic arms. I have this the little bar that gives me the ability to put two microphones. In terms of microphones right now, in my kit, I have two MKH-50, one Neumann 81, and my trusty Sanken CS3E that gets me in trouble more often than not. I'm not the only one talking about this one, right? Because that's a classic. Nothing gets you out of trouble like the CS3E. I mean, in a noisy environment, it's like the other guys are saying, it really sucks out the dialogue. It's like this little laser beam that gets you. You need to be on your best behavior when you're pointing that thing. But if you're hitting the sweet spot, it really gets you out of trouble.
All right. We always talk to students just coming out of school and getting into sound. So what kind of recommendations would you give them starting off in their career?
I think this one is pretty classic, but I definitely say start with a quality boom microphone. Like the adage is saying, like, buy one, cry once. So don't half step on getting a good microphone, because nothing is going to make you money and a good reputation like a proper microphone. So you cannot cheap on this stuff. So that's the first thing. So like I said before, you're better off with a very pristine microphone and a decent recorder than the other way around. Don't be fooled by the fact that manufacturers are trying to get you like a recorder with all the bells and whistles, because these days you can get a lot of value with very decently priced stuff in terms of recorder. But in terms of boom microphone, I think there is no alternative than a quality microphone. And honestly, like just like a classic Sennheiser 416 is just a good stepping stone on where to start. A coiled boom pole cable and a straight headphone cable will be the best, because you don't want to have two coiled because you're in trouble, and two straights doesn't really work either.
I've had some experience with that too. Yeah, suddenly you're all caught up, man. And it's like, oh no.
No. You don't want to be that guy on set like, oh, hold on a second, let me just like untangle myself. Like, no. Because in the sound world, you're doing a good job if nobody notices you. And I've been doing it for a bit, and people look at me like, oh, like your job is easy. When stuff hit the fan, you need to be very quick, because like people are going to light the scene for 2 hours and nobody blinks an eye. But when everybody shuts up, you're starting to notice the problems, and everybody rolls their eyes like, oh, hey, where were you the last 2 hours? Well, sorry, it's just like it's so noisy, you can't notice exactly what's going on. So anyways, that was my rant.
No, that's good. Are there any other projects you kind of wanted to talk about, or experience that you've had in your life and your career so far that you could share?
Well, I just want to say that, first of all, I'm very fortunate for doing this work. It's a very rich life that has been brought through this stuff, and I've met some great friends. I wish I could see other sound mixers, because we're always the only plumber on the construction site. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't talk to each other. So when we see another one, we're like, hey, what's this? What's that? But in terms of other projects, right now we're building locationsoundtools.com, which is a provider for accessories in our field. And we're doing accessories mostly for Zaxcom product at the moment. Battery caddies that have been designed by my colleague Chase Yeramayan down in California. And a couple of accessories like a stick mic microphone. A very great, you got to check this one out. It's pretty cool. It's the ZMTPH boom pole adapter. So it's basically allow you to use a body pack ZMT that has the Phantom option as a plug-on. So basically, the Electrosonics HM, you can just pop one of these guys in there without any screws or any tools or anything. You have very quick access to the battery, so you can change a battery in a couple of seconds, and the cable is locked very nice in there, and it's inexpensive and light. So I really suggest for folks to check it out. And we're very, very pleased to be growing this little pandemic side project that is now becoming bigger and bigger, and we're having a lot of fun. Our main goal is definitely to just bring better tools for sound folks in the community, because I do find that a lot of the instruments that we are using are too big and too heavy, and they take too much energy and space to carry from one place to another. Because in my book, the name of the game is to be efficient, to be fast, and to be light. So that's what we're trying to do at the location soundtools.com.
All right. I want to say thanks to Dominique Greffard for joining us today.
Hey, that's great. Thank you so much for having me, Michael. I wish you all the best, and thank you so much. It's been an honor for me to be here.
And I'd like to say thanks to everyone for listening. If you have questions or would like us to discuss a particular topic, email us at locationsoundpodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. We're available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and on your favorite podcast app. Until next time, remember, sound is half the picture.